Welcome to Missteps and Mastery. I'm Michiel, founder of Bluebird, and after 10 years in SaaS and leadership, I've learned the most from failures, both mine and others. And in this podcast, we dig into the key missteps and moments of mastery that have shaped some of the best leaders in SaaS and AI. And with that said, let me introduce you to Caroline. She's the co-founder of Uncover, and Uncover provides AI tools for legal professionals. First of all, welcome to the podcast, and thank you for joining. Would you mind giving us a high-level introduction of your background and your founder journey so far?
Yeah, definitely. So I am 35 now, and I started building Uncover in 2022. But before that, I was a lawyer. I was a litigation lawyer. Always went to court, wearing the robe, and I really enjoyed what I was doing. Thought it was a beautiful profession, but of course, as any other profession, there were things that I felt could be better, could be more efficient, could be done differently. And I was living in the US in 2021 when I went home for a bit and I was having dinner with a friend of mine, Ingrid, who is now my co-founder. And we were both frankly complaining about our work. She was a tax lawyer and also did some litigation at De Brauw, which is one of the biggest law firms in the Netherlands, if not the biggest. And I worked for Jones Day and then Lemstra, which is a smaller boutique firm, and Jones Day, a really large international law firm. And we were both really bumping into the same things. So we were talking about that. And when I flew home, or back to LA at the time where I lived, it sort of started growing the idea of, hey, maybe there is something we can do to improve this. And the same was happening for her. So while we were still working, we sort of started talking more and more, and it grew organically about, should we really maybe jump on a call again and discuss how we could make this better? And at the time, no one had ever heard of LLMs, or at least people had heard of LLMs. I personally had not heard of LLMs or AI. And we started talking about it more and more. We started spending a lot of time actually on building out the idea of what is now Uncover. So we started going into Figma. Well, you know Figma, probably. Yeah. Figma is this design tool.
Customer of ours.
Exactly. And we, honest to God, we did not know how to use it. So we just started copy-pasting every little button. And if it changed on one page, it had to be manually changed on the 200 other pages that we had created. But we did it, and we created the flow so that we could show something to people. We started drafting a business plan. We started calling, I think in total we called 120 lawyers, just asking them questions without, leaving them space to tell us what they were bumping into. And we eventually in April 2022 figured, or maybe it was January 2022, but we figured, let's give it a try. Let's just see if we can raise money, quit our job, and build this product that we want to build. So we did. We raised money with a venture capital studio and angels, and then we started building. So that was the origin of Uncover, where it came from, and it really is what you just mentioned. It's AI, Gen AI now driven software for lawyers with a bit more focus on litigation and advisory lawyers, automating all sorts of tasks that they do every day along the way. And it's been amazing. I wouldn't trade it for the world.
No, I think in general, being an entrepreneur is both extremely challenging, but it's also the most rewarding thing there is. So did you raise money first, or you quit your job first?
No, we raised money first. Yeah, got to be honest there.
Yeah, got it.
No, we. The thing is, for us, we are both lawyers, and we wanted to attract a technical person so that we could actually start building together, just out of our own pocket, and then raise some money after having built something. But it was very hard for us to find an engineer who was willing to quit his high-paid job for two lawyers who don't understand tech. So eventually we figured, okay, we have to raise some money to get the people that we need to start building.
So you did not end up finding that founding engineer willing to take a big step back. You raised money and then you pay what was required to get that person on board.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah. How did that go?
It's a bit of a step before what you just described. So the VC that we raised money with, they considered themselves a venture studio builder. And what they did was they said, okay, so we take a stake in your company. We invest a little bit of money, but mostly we have a whole range of people employed that you can put to work for the first, I don't know how many months, to start building the MVP. And in the meanwhile, you start hiring your own people. So the people that started building Uncover, the engineers of that particular VC, turned out to not have done a great job, which we only found out once we had hired our own technical lead. Because Ingrid and I couldn't test it. I mean, we kept asking the right questions, but they never really got the right answer, it turned out. So how that went was not great, but it did get us a first start, of course. But the product had to be rebuilt quite a lot by our own people after hiring them.
And so both you and Ingrid don't have that technical expertise.
Yeah.
How did you know you hired the right engineer and that the feedback that that person gave was actually accurate about the product that you were building?
Yeah, that's a very good question. We didn't. Of course, what we had learned over time in that period before was that asking the right question and continuing to ask it didn't necessarily get us the right answer back. So what we did was we reached out to some people we knew who were already working with technical people. And we said, hey, you know, could you have a quick view? Could you just give your thoughts on this person? Which is also eventually what led us to pick somebody who became our tech lead.
Amazing. So that person is still on board.
No. I can talk to you for many hours, Michiel. All the learnings I've had. No, that person is not on board for several reasons. He was a great guy and a really good engineer, but he wanted things that we couldn't offer, so he's no longer with us.
If you distill that journey with building that tech team, what would you say are your biggest learnings?
Maybe even apart from that particular tech team and how it worked out with the tech team. I think what I would mostly have done differently is in the whole process of fundraising, we had this venture capital studio, as I mentioned, that was really enthusiastic about us, and they were our best option at the time. And they sold themselves as a VC with people who had a lot of knowledge about AI and about entrepreneurship, about being an entrepreneur. But they were not all themselves prior entrepreneurs or previously entrepreneurs. And well, I know now, and you know too, that being an entrepreneur is really something very different from working for a company that works with entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
Not having had an entrepreneurial background yourself. So this VC said, you know, guys, we're going to invest in you, but we're only going to invest if you find a number of launching customers. You get 2 weeks, get them. So we started looking for launching customers, and we found them, but they were all from our own network. Mm-hmm. Of course, we hadn't really yet built anything at the time, but we had an idea. And all these companies really were very enthusiastic about what we were going to build. But at the end of the day, they were not the early adopters that we should have had or that we should have focused on when building our beta. So I feel like what we really should have done differently was not feel pressured by a VC, find a group of potential customers that now might be potential customers, but back 3 years ago were not, because they weren't yet as technologically in their mindset as they should have been for a product that is so beta, for a market that is new, a customer that is new, and that is not at all into AI yet. So I feel like we placed our beta in the wrong hands. And that happened a bit under pressure from a VC, that in the end we came to the conclusion, based on other things as well, they weren't former founders, so they don't really know what it is like to be founding a company.
So looking back at it, do you feel even without those launching customers, you would have been able to raise money despite not having that early intent?
Yes, because we raised quite a lot of money amongst angels already. Of course, you don't know at the time. Like, you're a founder. This is the first time you're doing it. We were doing it. We also felt this is our only way. This is our only option. We want to close. That's often, of course, what you feel. You know, if I close this round, then it's all going to be better. Then it's all going to change, and then I can actually go.
Yeah.
But that is not necessarily the case. So I do think even without those launching customers, we would have made it. But you know, we did go into this deal with this party, and of course, we are here today. So
yeah.
Wasn't all bad. There were just things that I have learned now.
Yeah, but I think what we see online mostly is successes based on Y Combinator.
Yeah.
We see entrepreneurs first. I think it's a good example.
Yeah.
But it's also interesting to hear that not all experiences are great, and maybe another avenue would have worked as well.
Yeah, and it's also because what I feel, you know, in building tech, you are always advised to go to the market very soon. You know, don't wait too long because then you're too late. Don't test it for forever because then you're too late. And that's true. But also don't be too quick. Because then you are going to have trouble proving yourself. Because you're not yet at product market fit, but you are already public and you are already stating that you're selling something. So it also, once you raise money, you're going to have to raise money again, most likely. And it gets you in a bit more of a difficult position. And if you're not well instructed by a VC that is backing you, and you are following them on their word, then that's quite difficult. That makes it.
I think there's some incredible VCs out there.
100%.
This is my caveat before what I'm saying next.
Okay.
But we work with a lot of VCs, so we get to cherry pick like the best ones that we like to work with. And but I feel some VCs that haven't built out a strong platform, as in proper advice towards companies, hiring people with a background within the software space, but mostly have people that are financially really strong, are quite often giving the wrong advice. So it's also very much worth getting advice from different perspectives. Because sometimes what VCs want is not necessarily best for your company right now, and it's always a balance that you need to keep track of.
I agree.
Okay, and tell me a bit more about, okay, you set up that, if first you worked through that venture studio, then you hired an engineer. In the meantime, you must have an engineering team. You guys are obviously a few years ahead. Where are you today, and what steps did you take along the road?
So we hired a couple more engineers. We hired salespeople. I think right now we are at a point where we have a really solid product. We have a lot of very happy customers. We see a lot of usage, especially of several features in our solution. Of course, for us, you know, when we started building Uncover, there was no Gen AI. OpenAI had not yet launched GPT. And then 5 months into building and into actually training our own models, GPT did launch ChatGPT. So we had to decide, okay, what are we going to do? And we pivoted. So we let go of our own models that we had trained for a lot of money. And we implemented the GPT model in the back end. We are now model agnostic, so we can use all sorts of models. And we are still really keen that we've been doing that from the get-go, and we still are always on gathering a lot of user feedback. Because if you are working for such a specific target customer that have such a specific way of working, you also need to be wary of what they are ready for, first of all, and what the way they work, so that it doesn't intervene too much with their day-to-day. So we are really keen on gathering a lot of feedback and implementing what they are looking for or what they don't know they're looking for into Uncover. We raised another round last year. We're slowly but surely growing the team. So I'd say we're in a good spot.
Got it. And how are you gathering that user feedback? I think it's super valuable. I think everybody would probably agree. I think my company is not doing that enough. So I'm curious to learn, like, how are you doing that?
So we, when we start with a new customer. They take out a subscription. We have month by month or for a year. And we always already schedule several feedback calls during which we literally just ask them, tell us everything. Their blank page, go ahead, tell us everything. What are you bumping into? What is confusing to you? What would you like? What are you missing? And so forth. So we ask them. Then second, we have in our platform, we have thumbs up, thumbs down. That's not, of course, used by all the users, but some of them do, which gives us valuable feedback. And we use a platform called Datadog, which you might know it. It logs, it logs what the users do. So we can actually view their actions on the screen. Now, it doesn't show us any of the content that they're working with, but it does show us, for instance, do they ever use feature A? And if they don't, should we reconsider even offering feature A? Should we maybe get the value of feature A and place it somewhere else? So it's really 3 ways in which we try to gather the feedback.
And you're selling towards quite a traditional stakeholder. Mm-hmm. I studied law myself.
I didn't know.
And how do you approach that from a sales perspective?
Yeah, that's quite difficult.
Yeah.
I gotta say. I even underestimated because I was a lawyer, of course. So when Ingrid and I started, we already knew, okay, this is gonna be long sales cycles. This is not gonna be quick. This is gonna take a long time. So we knew we have to go about it very diligently. We need to have all the information ready. They're going to have questions about security. They're going to have questions about pricing. They're going to negotiate about everything, especially when you're an early company. You're not going to have, oh no, I don't negotiate about a contract, or at least we didn't. We did negotiate because we wanted to sign them. So they are a customer that is, first of all, has a very traditional way of working. That you need to offer a product that fits in that way of working. So what we really focused on and still focus on is making a very user-friendly interface that is sort of the way they work on a screen instead of the way they currently work on paper. So we've very well thought about what is it they literally do right now and how can we best offer that on a screen. And then in doing sales, you need to really take them along. Schedule the next call. Ask them, are you ready to buy? What is your budget? Do you have a budget? So you need to ask a lot of questions upfront already, which is probably the case in every SaaS sales company. And really stick or keep them, hold them to their agreements because they're going to cancel all the time because always something more important comes up. There's a hearing, I need to prepare for a meeting, a client came by, I don't have time. I don't know how often meetings get postponed. So we really are on top of it. But it took us a while to craft this whole sales map or sales playbook. We really had to learn a lot because we also didn't know it was going to take this long or them being this difficult or also just wary of technology. And that they still are. This is not a customer base that jumps on the opportunity to have technology.
Yeah, I'm curious. I'm going to tell you a bit about previous company where I worked to see if what they did might be applicable to your business as well. And maybe this tangent leads to nothing, but let's see.
Let's go.
Company that I worked for was called Enable Technologies. And we sold IT software with some similarities to Datadog to IT service providers. Okay. What IT service providers did, most of them have changed in the meantime, is if something breaks on your laptop, they come to your office and they go and fix it, and then they charge for the number of hours they worked, which means you cannot work for a few hours, and that's their business model. Yep. So it's what we call the break-fix model. What we sold to them was technology with which they could monitor the devices. They could manage them. So before something would go wrong, they'd be able to detect it and fix it. Yep. And then they would actually be able to automate a lot of those tasks. Yep. What happened, every technician thought, that looks amazing. Cool, I want to use it. Until they realized, wait a second, if I start automating stuff, I cannot bill my hours. So it's actually not that appealing to us. And that's where we really had to help them change their business model from a break fix and hourly fee to offering a managed contract where a certain amount of services were just included instead of charging for the hours.
Yeah.
This might be completely off the mark, but is the industry that you're working in, I'm not up to date with it anymore, but is that transition happening? And is that something you guys are also helping to guide those companies with?
Yeah, not at all off the mark, very much on the mark. And yes, they are changing. So traditionally, indeed, lawyers also bill by the hour. Already in my years as a lawyer, I was seeing more and more so that clients were saying, hey, I don't want to pay for this, or I want to negotiate prices. I want a discount on every euro, or they just wouldn't pay because they felt like too many hours were spent on work. So there were a lot of discussions, which already led more and more so to law firms offering caps or saying, okay, we're going to do this for this amount of money. If something else comes up, we're going to have to talk about it again. With the coming of AI, with the coming of LLMs, what you really notice is that the customers can all of a sudden also ask ChatGPT, hey, draft a contract for me, and it gets pretty good output. So what you see more and more is that they go to the firm and say, hey, but I asked it to do A, or, I have this, what do you think about it? And it has led even more so to the customer saying, so what do you use? Do you use GPT? Do you use any kind of technology to be more efficient? And that is leading more to law firms having to change their approach because they really can't get away with it anymore. It's their clients, they are pushing for it. Then also their own lawyers, they see what's possible. They want to use it. So it changes the approach of the law firm from within and also from the client perspective. It is, of course, a touchy subject, although I have to say it's not ever been one that we have heard as an objection. So although they bill by the hour and by using Uncover, you're much more efficient, the fact is, if you're a company looking to sell your company or your part of your shares to another company, or if you're looking to do an acquisition, if you're going into litigation, and your lawyer suddenly is able to provide you with the output you're looking for and you really need 3 months sooner than it would have otherwise, then that is worth money to you as well. Because at the end of the day, a lawyer to a company is always somebody he has to, drag along because they're always trying to show you everything that can go wrong or the risks or trying to solve something for you. So if it makes the lawyer work more efficiently, that's worth a lot to the client. So they're going to be paying anyway. So the model changes, but it doesn't mean that you're going to, of course, make less money. But it is something you have to educate them on. Yeah.
Do you see more and more that lawyer firms start working in a monthly model as opposed to charging per hour, or is that still early days?
That is not something I've actually heard of yet. What I mostly hear is it's going to be more product based. So a writ of summons is going to cost you 30K. The whole going to court, the pleading, etc., is going to cost you this much. Or they are looking at caps, but it could also be, especially if you're for a long time working for a certain client, then it could also be on a monthly basis. Yeah.
Yeah, if you have like a service level agreement with certain types of agreements that you will always do for a fixed amount, no matter how often they come up, like employment contracts, shareholders agreement, maybe slightly more difficult.
But then subscription-based is something that could indeed be interesting, yeah.
Yeah, I actually really enjoy the law firm that we're working with. But you do feel like interests are not completely aligned with the more time it takes for them, the better. Yeah. And the worse for us. Yeah. That's always a
tricky
dichotomy.
One. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's look at a different part of being a successful entrepreneur. You have a co-founder.
Yeah.
You're both lawyers.
Yeah.
You both don't have a highly technical background. So there's some overlap in your profiles. Where do you see the overlap and where do you feel you guys are complementary?
So Ingrid, my co-founder, is a a brilliant woman. She is. She has a fiscal background, so a tax background, which makes her very strong with numbers. I'm okay with numbers, but really she's a lot better with numbers. So that is already something that I need her for, and that I really like, brainstorming with her about. I am more commercial. I am more keen on going, into groups, just talking, selling our product. So that's also why I am head of sales and she is head of finance, for instance. Of course, we have a salesperson now, but we didn't for a long time. What we are we're very much alike in the way we work. So we are extremely structured. We do not talk too much about things. We take very quick decisions. So we've really found sort of common ground in how to approach everything. But there are just certain aspects that she's better at than I am, and the other way around, where it's complementary. So we, in fundraising, that's always been very easy actually to work with, because I would do more of the opening and telling them about Uncover and our idea and how we got here, and then she would take over and tell about the numbers and the customers and etc. So it's worked really well.
Amazing. And both of you are female founders. Mm-hmm. Now, I'm running this podcast. I'm super happy that I have a female founder in front of me. Interestingly enough, obviously we're all trying to create more diversity. At the same time, when I ask female founders to join the podcast, a lot of them say, I get so many podcast invitations. So it's funny to see how that part works. And we've talked about this before as well, and I really enjoyed getting to know you better over the past months. Can you tell me a bit about your journey as a female founder? I think it's worth knowing a bit about, what do you run into? What are maybe the benefits? But of course, there's also downsides. Yeah. Can you tell me a bit about that?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, it's a topic that when we started Uncover, we really wanted to stay away from. So we started Uncover, and there were a lot of magazines and a lot of papers that would reach out and would say, hey, I want to get you guys on the, a 2-pager or the front page, female-led company, female founders, etc. And we were like, no, we are founders. We're not female. That doesn't matter. We're just founders. And I gotta say, along the way, we came to the conclusion, no, we are female founders, and it really does make a difference. And, this is not a sad story or anything, but it is the truth. So it's a great thing in the sense that you're perceived as a minority, which gets people to talk. But at the end of the day, it doesn't get you money. It doesn't. We've very often had conversations with VCs or investors that would literally ask us about where we got the time to put makeup on, or where we got jewelry, that we didn't look like a regular founder with a hoodie on, wearing a hoodie, if we were for real, how much money our husbands made, if this was just for fun or we were legit trying to build a company. So really, those questions led us to, at some point, calling each other before we had a conversation, saying, should I wear this? Should I maybe take off my watch? Should I, wear very timid clothing? So that ain't cool, I gotta say. Yeah, because you're trying to run a business.
I think it's way worse than cool.
Yeah.
I can smile about it now because we talked about it before, but I think you remember my response the first time, but I think it's an eye-opener. And I'm really glad that you were open to share a bit about that, because I think there's a lot of people with great intentions. I'd say the vast majority have great intentions, but I think a lot of people are also not aware of those types of things. But I think it's horrendous.
Yeah.
And
it's tough because, I'm also a mother. I got pregnant when we just started building Uncover. My co-founder already had 2 kids. So I got pregnant when we first started building Uncover. I got pregnant again a year and a half ago. And I can tell you, we have worked our asses off. We've worked really, really hard to get where we are. And I can without a doubt tell you that I think my co-founder and I work harder than a lot of really great other founders out there. Because we only have so much time. You know, we are limited in time. We cannot stay up all night because we have kids, or we have to feed the kids. We have to be very resourceful. There's a lot of things that make us work harder, more efficiently, think about the hour. You know, if I look at my team, and they're all really great, but they go for coffees, they go and sit and have a talk, and they have a chat, and after lunch they go for a walk. We don't do those things because we just go, because we know we need to be at home at some point. And what makes it rough sometimes, or rough, I don't know if that's the right word, but confronting, is that you are a mother and a woman, and you know you have at least the same worth. Your value is huge, but you have to prove yourself all of a sudden. You're in a room, and apparently you don't really fit in what people think that room should be looking like. And you can just see it in the conversations, especially, of course, with investors. You know, you just see it. You just see it happening in front of you. If they ask you, do you want more kids? A question, by the way, I doubt they ever ask to a man, but okay, I understand, because I am a woman and I will be out of office for a bit. You know, I get those things, especially now that I have a company and I have employees. I get it. But it doesn't say anything about the greatness of our idea, about how we work, about how resilient we are, and so forth. So you suddenly feel like you have to prove yourself over something that, well, should you have to prove yourself?
I don't think so.
No.
I also discussed this with my wife. We had a baby 4 months ago, as you know. And I can attest to the fact that you have to work harder than anyone else, because I'm so grateful that she is taking a lot of responsibility there. I help wherever I can. But when we were talking about like conversation we had and combining motherhood and running a company at the same time, and obviously I know what it takes to run a company.
Yeah.
My God, immense respect from the both of us. And I think if you're showing that you're capable of juggling those things, then I'd say that's a massive testament to the fact that you are capable of juggling a lot of things at the same time, that you're highly organized. If you look back at that, I think it's highly respectable that you made little use of the fact that you were female founders, despite the fact that the publicity it could have given you. I also see that that's, funnily enough, I hear that more often from successful female entrepreneurs. Would you have done that differently and just taken at least some of the benefit of it, knowing that there's definitely some hardships along the road?
I don't know. Probably with hindsight knowledge, a little bit, yeah. But also, we just have a really great product. We had a really great idea. That's what it is and was about. So probably that would have been more about making people aware, making investors aware, rather than trying to sell our product.
I respect that. I totally stand behind that. I also really appreciate that we can have this conversation, because I think these conversations are mostly left out of the social media sphere, despite the fact that I think it's really important that people speak up about it. So big thank you for that.
Of course, I figured if you're going to ask, then why not? Let's just do it for once.
Good. So maybe let's look at a slightly different angle. If you look at the path that you guys went through, what do you think you guys did a tremendous job in, where you think you probably do a better job than most software companies, something you nailed quite quickly? Nothing is ever perfect, but what did you do really well?
Two things that we do really, really well. Of course, a lot of things, obviously, but two things we do really, really well. We are really good at building and staying focused with very few resources and very few people. We have really built great technology in a very short period of time for a customer base that is hard to grapple. If I look around me and I see our competitors, they've raised 800 million. Like our biggest competitors, one is 800 million, the other one 120 million.
Wow.
They have 108 people employed, and the 800 million, I think a couple hundred people employed. We, up until more than a year ago, a bit more than a year ago, we were 4 people. And we have almost the same number of customers as those companies do. So I think that's partly due to my co-founder and I coming from the background that we come from. We have always worked under very high pressure. It's really review, decide and execute. Don't think about it too long. We're not going to have a meeting and then say, let's schedule a call and leave the scheduling for later. We schedule the call. We always work. We fix things. We get shit done. And I think our entire team is really built like that. So all our people are really keen on, okay, it doesn't work, let's jump to something else. Okay, this works, let's try it out. It's not perfect, doesn't matter. Let's just push it, we'll see what comes. So I'm really proud of our team for how we've been doing and how we are, creating something. And we're pretty good at marketing.
Okay.
We've been really marketing ourselves pretty well. I have a lot of companies around me say, how do you get yourself everywhere? How do you always, how are you in the Financial Times again? And how are you on the front of that magazine or on that blog? So we do good at marketing. And I think that's also one of the things, that's where it's beneficial to be a female founder. And maybe the sassy female founders that we are, because we don't mind reaching out and just saying, hey, we would like to be on the front of your magazine, but that does get us on magazines.
And is that mostly traditional media, obviously also online, or is it a broader marketing strategy that is not just that component, but also other components?
Yeah, it's broader. So it is, our customer base really reads a lot of blogs, websites for lawyers. So we write a monthly blog for those. We occasionally are interviewed, so that's where we post, and then we repost everything on LinkedIn, of course. Mm-hmm. Occasionally, we will reach out to newspapers to write something, an opinion article, or really just about Uncover or our vision on AI in LegalTech. And it's also a really strong focus on LinkedIn because our customer base is so much on LinkedIn. Mm-hmm. At the end of the day, they are still quite traditional. So we are also stuck in the more traditional fora.
Is it translating to actual interest and meetings booked?
Yes.
And,
yeah, certainly. Yeah.
Amazing. Any specific recommendations in that area for founders that are listening? Because I think a lot of founders are actually really struggling with this part.
Yeah, so I think the most important thing is just don't be afraid. Try to find a number and call them. If it's a blog you want to be on, if it's a magazine you want to be in, a newspaper, a podcast you want to be on, add people on LinkedIn, start writing messages, just try. And it'll get you something. And then you have a relation somewhere. You can always reach out. That's really how it worked best for us. Just do it.
Yeah.
Just do it.
I agree. It's also been my personal. Obviously, I'm a sales guy. I've been for a long time, but I also proactively reached out. Yeah. And then, as soon as you continue posting, you start building that network. At some point, you're seen as a thought leader. And
exactly.
And now sometimes I say no to things, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah.
But it's worth the investment, and it took 5 years. So yeah.
It's not overnight.
No.
No.
So maybe. Before we wrap up, I'm going to ask you a horrendously difficult question. Oh, yeah. But I'd love you to share one key takeaway. So ideally, that's a piece of advice that's straight from the heart based on your founder journey. Something meaningful that you've learned from your journey in SaaS, which you want to share with every listener that we have today.
I think the most important one, and you might have heard me say this before, is to follow your gut. Your gut is a combination of what your heart feels and your brain thinks, so to say. It is, of course, not just your gut. It's all based on everything you've learned up until a point. But your gut really has a very strong... I'm saying that wrong, sorry. Your gut really is often right. And I've learned that the hard way a couple of times. So I've not listened to my gut a couple of times. Once with somebody we've hired, once with a party, that we wanted as an investor. And eventually it leads to a lot of energy and time going to the wrong things. And I know for sure that if I would have followed my gut, that would not have happened. So follow your gut. And maybe to the female founders out there, if I may, do it anyway. If you feel like doing it, do it anyway. Just stand tall and don't underestimate your own value because everybody around you seems to be doing it. Because it is so cool to be building something that you believe in yourself. And I already, having a daughter, already feel like, I can tell her what I did when she's a bit older. And she'll be proud. And I'm damn proud. So
you absolutely deserve to be proud. There's so many more questions I want to ask. But for now, luckily I'll get enough time with you in the future to talk more. But I really want to thank you. This was a super inspiring talk. I think I speak for many people that are listening that I really appreciate the fact that you opened up so much. And I think it's without a doubt that our listeners enjoyed this episode as much as I did. So
thanks.
Huge thank you.
Love being here and would love to talk again. Thank you.
Cool.